Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of the Unseen Horror Corner, the series where I rate horror movies based on how much they scare me as a blind person. This episode, The Descent, from 2005. And my light stick keeps flickering in and out. As usual, I will be rating these horror movies based on how much the sounds leave me with a lingering sense of dread, because obviously, visuals don't really cut it to creep me out. And I will be delving into some spoilers. So The Descent is about Sarah, who, a year after losing her family in a car accident, decides to go on a cave expedition with her friends, only for said cave to collapse in on them and trap them with the hungry creatures that live within. Now, first things first, where I was streaming this didn't have any audio description available, so I was a little confused in some areas of the movie, but to be honest, I was still able to parse most of it together. Although, to be fair, a lot of this movie's plot is also dependent on the characters literally being in the dark. There were plenty of normal sounds one would expect to hear on a cave expedition, like the sound of your equipment moving as you moved, and your feet shuffling and echoing off the walls, and water dripping. Totally innocuous, but the way they just punctuated the silence and had me constantly on edge waiting for the other shoe to drop. You find out early on that Sarah also suffers from some hallucinations post-accident, so sometimes you'll hear her daughter calling out for her, laughing, calling her mommy. Continuing on, so on top of the paranoia created by the claustrophobic caves and Sarah's hallucinations, you start to hear some feet shuffling that don't quite match up with the women's and other animal noises. Lo and behold, there are humanoid creatures that are in the caves hunting them through echolocation, actually, because they're totally blind, and they not only sound like bats, but they also sound like the clickers from The Last of Us, So, if you're keeping track, we've got the claustrophobic cave itself, and then Sarah's hallucinations, and then the creature's echolocation, and eventually, when the creatures do get to them, the very visceral experience of hearing each of them feast. I should also mention that when the characters first get attacked, there's no background music, just to emphasize all the carnage, but later on, as they fight their way out, and they do pretty well fighting their way out, there is more music to give you hope, but your hope will be dashed by the extended version, or I guess the original UK ending. So basically, just when you've thought that Sarah's made it back out to the surface and to safety, nope, cut to her in the caves, waking up from a dream, and now having a hallucination of her daughter calling out to her while a pack of the creatures close in. As if hearing everything else in this movie didn't fill me with enough dread, all of that compounded at the end, in the original ending, really solidified it. So I give The Descent a 4 out of 5 on my blind fan scare scale. Would I have given this a 5 if it had audio description? Perhaps, but I'm also not ready to give out 5s yet. This is only the second episode. Maybe I will do a tier ranking after I finish all the movies on my list. Anyways, till next time.